to Talking TSM, the Game House's talk show about TSM's LCS team. I'm Robert Haynes, the host, the guide, I guess your guy, that helps you learn more about the world of TSM. I don't know why I said that like I was sad. Like, I'm not sad. I'm excited. There's a lot of good stuff to talk about today, fam. It's I don't know really how long this one will go. It'll really just depend. But the goal today for this episode of Talking TSM is that we are going to discuss the current meta, because MSI has been going for a while now. We've seen a lot of games. We have a pretty good idea of what the meta looks like, and while there are changes to 11.11, in case if that is the patch that will be played on, there are some changes that we'll discuss, but overall I think we're going to have a pretty good read on what the meta looks like, what kind of picks are going to be coming through, what priorities are going to be, and so I wanted to take a look at how this could affect TSM heading into the beginning of the summer. As a reminder, we got 27 games to play during the summer, starting here in just about 2 weeks. 2 weeks from tomorrow, actually. From May 21st, the Friday. And so schedules haven't been released or anything yet. I imagine they probably will here either later this week or very early next week. So we'll get a better idea of who we're playing and whatnot. Expect next week's episode to be a pretty long one. There's a lot for us to go over because, like I said, we're going to be pretty close to the start of the season. I'm going to start talking about that kind of stuff. If there is a schedule release, we'll go over those things. And then the week after, so 2 episodes after this one, will be the full-on TSM 2021 Summer LCS preview. Something that's very exciting. So hopefully exciting for you guys as well. I also am trying a little bit of a new setup, so if my mic sounds a little further away or something, just let me know in the comments. But yeah, I got myself a third monitor. It's been really nice, especially for this. With that, couple of things. Make sure you go back and watch last week's episode, or listen or watch, I guess, last week's episode with Mellory. He did an excellent job of a great back and forth, I think, between us whenever he's on, and did a really good job of breaking down, some of the new things, our new people that are coming to TSM, and just some thoughts on how last season's went, and hopefully how, this season will go as well. Definitely, not a bad thing to look forward. I know we're still pretty far out there, but the hope is that the team is starting to get ready here soon. I'm sure they're going to start ramping up practice, potentially even next week if they haven't already. I haven't really had a chance to look, to be honest with you, but yeah, I'm really excited about that. So go listen to that episode with Mellory from last week. Also, big spoiler alert. I'm going to give you guys about 5 seconds to pause here. I'm going to talk about the results of MSI. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. C9 lost. Sadly, they went 3-7. And weirdly enough, they beat throughout the tournament, they were able to take out Damwon Kia, RNG, and Mad Lions. Now, the Mad Lions game was meh. But they lost to freaking the leftovers from OCE, which was stupid. They just clearly lost focus and then got too far behind, and yeah, it was not great. But there were promising signs, and I want to talk about them for a second too, because I think it has a little bit to do with the meta, and I think it's also just worth discussing. I think C9 actually showed that NA is maybe a little bit more ready than we thought. I know that they went down in a blaze of glory and they freaking lost their opportunity to play themselves in, which is probably why they really just kind of looked dead against PSG Talon, because, you know, they lost to Penta, and then everything they needed to happen early in the morning a couple days ago didn't happen for them. And so, you know, it's very clear that on the last day they weren't doing everything that they needed to, and there's just something to be said about losing motivation and losing games, and clearly losing focus. I will be honest with you, everybody who listens who's a TSM fan specifically. C9 are a very solid team, and they're scary, especially for us. I think we can beat them, and I think we can very easily go toe to toe with them. But taking games off of Damwon and RNG are not easy things to do. Those are very good teams. And to be completely honest, there were games against both of those teams and Mad Lions that C9 were very close in, or were honestly winning and through the game. There were times where it felt like C9 were easily of the same class as these teams that we consider to be, you know, the top two in the world. So yeah, 3-7 scoreline looks pretty crappy. Not gonna deny that. Losing to Pentanet, was pretty disappointing as an NA fan hoping for us to make a run. But that said, they looked good, and they looked good pretty consistently. So that brings hope to me, so that when we head into this summer, and we now know that C9 can go against the big boys of the LPL and the LCK, that gives me hope that we, as TSM, can absolutely push ourselves to not only compete with them, but compete at an international level. If that is like our bar right now, is if Cloud9 can do what they did, and if we can consistently beat Cloud9, or even just beat them overall, right, then I think that is promising for us. And I think if we win the LCS and we're able to beat them in the playoffs, or even we just beat them in the playoffs in general, then I'm very confident that we will make a hopefully stronger appearance at Worlds than we did last year, should we make it. But that's a topic for a different discussion, or a different day. Let's head into the meta. That's what we wanted to talk about. I know I spent the first couple minutes going over a couple things. I know you guys probably don't love talking about Cloud9, but I do think it's important for us to set the bar, examine where we are at, and kind of go from there. Now, I'm going to run through as quickly as possible the picks from the meta. In case if you haven't been watching MSI, the meta has evolved a lot. There are a lot of new picks, but there are picks that you will recognize from the beginning of the year that I think are going to be interesting. First one is Gnar. We're going to go top, jungle, mid, ADC, and support, by the way. So Gnar's been, he's like by far and away the most top lane picked. It's got a, you know, he's got a 44% pick ban right now. He's got a 52% win percentage. So, you know, I would believe that that's 17-16 record. At MSI, it's a champion that doesn't really do much in lane necessarily, but is always involved in team fights. I think that's why everybody likes him so much. That ultimate in Mega Gnar is just devastating, and people have to play around it. So I think in competitive, it's a lot stronger than, you know, in solo queue and whatnot. But yeah, it's an interesting pick. Jace was picked 17 times, second most in the top lane, which was a bit surprising. About the same, a 53% win percentage. Normally was picked, as counters and whatnot, or if teams really wanted to try to potentially play through top or go through a poke, you name it. Jace was there. The newest addition to the top lane has been Lee Sin. 90% pick ban rate, easily the top, and had a 73% win percentage. People are making, if you haven't been paying attention, people have been making plays all over the place. Fudge made some pretty outstanding plays for C9 with Lee Sin. I expect that Lee Sin will probably be pick or ban heading into the meta, even with the nerf that we'll discuss here a little bit that he is receiving. He's a solid pick. I've played against him in lane myself. It's absolutely obnoxious. Not something you want to deal with on a regular basis, but a good champion overall. Probably a little too strong, but you'll definitely see Lee Sin in the top lane. We'll discuss how that might affect Huni. Scion's been played a lot. You just need something beefy. You throw up the Scion. Similar to Gnar, good team fight alt, but he's got a lot of other things, and he is probably the beefiest or one of the beefiest champions in all League of Legends, so no surprise there. Gangplank, when teams have been confident with their top lane picks, Gangplank 8 times has been very strong. Renekton has been 91% pick or banned. It's been banned a lot. He's only been played in 7 games. Clearly pretty strong. That said, though, of those 7 games, only a 43% win percentage. Obviously, that's just three wins out of 7, but not bad. Urgot has also come out of the woodworks. 7 games played, 29% win percentage, but has been seen as a nice counter. Set's coming back with 6 games. Nocturne, 6 games, only won 1 of those, but I think if somebody like Huni is strong enough, or if Nocturne's strong enough to be played, I think Huni could probably play it to a little bit higher percentage than that. And then Lucian has also been picked. He's been picked or banned a lot. And this is not just in the top lane, but being able to flex Lucian has been a topic of discussion, I'll say. Heading into the jungle, Udyr, Rumble, and Morgana. Those have been the top 3 standard picks. Udyr, 94% pick ban. Rumble, 84%. Morgana, 85%. Games played, Udyr, 36. Rumble, 31. Morgana, 26. Win percentages, which is interesting. Udyr, 58%. Morgana, 58%. And Rumble, 48%. Now, these have been the 3 mainstays. Udyr has come up in priority. Originally, it was just Rumble, Morgana. That was pretty much it. Rumble has fallen out of favor. I don't think the nerfs that are coming to him are going to really help that. But Rumble in the jungle is certainly back and something worth watching. Morgana, even with the nerfs that she's going to be receiving, is also a super strong pick right now. Between her Black Shield, people have been running Predator on her as well so that she can get into fights really quickly. Her ultimate's been solid. More importantly, she just clears so freaking fast. I mean, just drops her pool, heals. I've played a couple Morgana jungle games. I can tell you guys, and I've watched obviously a lot of MSI. She is very strong right now. But Udyr's also been really strong too. Being able to tank, be that front line for people. I actually think he's stronger now than potentially he was during the middle of the spring. So definitely a pick to watch out for. Couple other picks, Volibear, Nidalee, both with 9 games, Olaf with 7, and Lilia with 4. I think Lilia's been more of like a niche, like they lose Rumble and Morgana, but they still want to go AP, so I don't know how much we'll see her. I think Olaf is starting to fall out of favor too. Nidalee was picked a lot more early on than has been lately. The Volibear, though, has been very interesting, and I will go into this a little bit more later, but Volibear's won 6 of the 9 games that have been played on him in the jungle, and I think honestly could be a pick / should be a pick that should be maybe looked at a little bit more is what I'll say. We head to the mid lane now. Victor, 21 games. This is probably like the most diverse pool right here is mid lane. Victor with 21 games, but only a 33% win. Ugh, not great. Zoe, 18 games, 67% win. Oriana, 17 games, 47%. Silas, 11 games, 73%. Silas has been a really good counter pick in the meta right now and has clearly been somebody who's very strong. I think he's pretty just strong in the meta in general. I don't know if he's necessarily S tier, but definitely a high A tier pick. Lucian, 60% win percentage, has been played a pretty decent amount. Syndra's been played 9 games, not been that super effective, but people like to fall back on Syndra. She's definitely a comfort champion for a lot of people. Lee Sin's been played in the mid lane as well. If you didn't know, Lee Sin is more of a solo laner now than a jungler. Hasn't really been playing the jungle at all. Mostly a top laner. Did not do very well, 29% win percentage in the mid lane. I believe that's 2 out of 7 games won, so not great. Ryze has been played 6 times, 67% win percentage. More, and potentially most importantly, there have been a lot of different assassins, like Akali, Kiana, oh gosh, let me check. Sorry guys, should have had this one prepped. I didn't have this one prepped. Yone, Zed's been even picked a little bit. There are LeBlanc, Nocturne, Cassidon's even been picked. I think that's mostly it. But it looks like assassins are trying to get back into the meta. We'll have to see. They're not there yet, but clearly people are willing to play some of these assassins, and that could be something really worth watching for, to be honest. So we'll keep an eye on that. 80 carries. Kai'Sa was number 1 pick by a large margin. 88% pick or ban, 52 games, by far and away the most played champion in the entire tournament. 60% win percentage. Now, obviously, if you're being played that much, you're pretty strong, but 60% win percentage, pretty busted if you ask me. Tristana, 24 games, only 38% win percentage. Xayah, 13, 38%. Varus, 11 games, 45% win. Aphelios, 7, 71%. Kalista, 6, 33%. And Jinx, 5, 50%. 80 carry meta has been pretty much Kai'Sa Trist. Xayah for teams that are afraid of a lot of dive. Varus was used a little bit more early on. His poke has been really good, and I think there's some teams that really, really value him. I think he could be getting back into the meta, but 80 carry has been pretty much just a lot of Kai'Sa, and then we'll see what happens after that. And obviously, just so you guys know, I'm not listing every champion. I'm listing champions that have had meaningful games played on them. Jinx, again, was one that everybody thought, and the reason I list Jinx is because everybody thought she was going to be super good. Has not been so far, so we'll have to see why that is, but I think I know why, and I'll go into that here in a little bit too. Support, Nautilus, Leona, Alistar. Those have been the 3 biggest ones. Nautilus, 79% pick or ban, 49% win. Leona, 26 games, 65% win percentage. She's been pretty strong. That engage, as you guys can tell, hook engage, Nautilus, Leona, Thresh is getting picked too. Those are big time. Alistar has been really tanky and I think been nice for a lot of teams, but only has a 45% win percentage in 20 games. Thresh has been played 10 games, 80% win. Not a big surprise. I think great Thresh players can kind of play Thresh whenever they want to. He's a super balanced champion, and I think just a really good champion overall. Rel's been played a lot, 8 games, but bad win percentage, 38%. That's a huge difference in what we saw. And I think that, she's kind of fallen out of favor. Tahm Kench has mostly been played with things like Jinx, Aphelios, those kinds of things where they need to be eaten to be kept alive. Rakan has been played 5 times as 1 win. It's not been looking great for Rakan, but he's still a nice little niche pick. Obviously, I got to talk to you about my boy Galio. 2 wins out of 4 games. Meh. I think he's still there in niche situations, but I won't probably be pushing for him every single week like I was. Set 2 games as well in the support role, but I think Set's starting to kind of make his way back in. I think it would only take maybe 1 buff, even a small one, to Set at any potential level for him to be able to get right back in the meta at support, top, or jungle, potentially even mid. People have been playing in mid too, so I think Set's right about there, and I think if they were to buff him even once in 11-12 or 11-13 during the middle of the season, we could really see Set kind of work his way into the meta. All right, so those are the MSI picks. I'm going to quickly go over the patch 11.11 changes so far that we know of. They haven't officially come out. They won't come out till next week. But I want to make sure that I go over these with you guys because it's going to really drive the rest of our discussion with what we're looking at for the team. So Azir was buffed a little bit to his Q, nothing serious. Hecarim receiving nice buffs, but I don't know that they're enough. Hecarim got nerfed into the ground, so these might be enough to maybe get him played a little bit, but I don't know. It didn't seem like it was enough for him to be, because the nerfs that he received were pretty substantial. I think Riot was tired of seeing him played in every single game. So, yeah. Lucian was nerfed, but it was just his E by 1 second. Nothing really noteworthy. I think he'll still be in there. Morgana definitely got a nerf to her clear, and that's going to have an effect. Maybe she's not going to be like necessarily pick or ban, but she's definitely still going to be in the meta. Most interesting thing in this patch, if you didn't know, Nautilus jungle will be a thing. They buffed his E, which is the little spurts of water out of the ground thingy, his AoE damage essentially, and that got buffed pretty significantly. Let me get you guys the exact stats here. His ability deals 200% damage to jungle monsters now. That's literally intentionally so that he can clear. They want him to be a jungler. I don't know if this means that he's going to be pick or banned. If we're going to have to see once these patches go through what Nautilus can do. But jungle is definitely going to be something that Nautilus will be able to do. And I'll be honest with you guys, it feels like there's a chance that Nautilus could be pick or ban in the bot lane or in the jungle. Jungle has gotten real interesting, fam. It's going to be interesting to watch. Rumble's probably out of the meta. The nerf, his damage cap, for monsters decreased from to 80 from 120. He's already started falling out of the meta. I think he might be out. Senna got buffed. She's going to be unbelievably strong. I would be shocked if she's not in the meta. Seraphine got buffed. Could be something. Urgot slightly nerfed. People could still potentially use him. Frostfire Gauntlet got nerfed, thank God. That's why Senna was really strong right now. But with the Frostfire Gauntlet nerf, I don't think we'll see that build anymore. But she's still going to be strong. Another very interesting part of this. Nautilus Jungle is still the most interesting. But Staff of Flowing Water is also getting buffed. Which means we could start seeing Enchanter supports. That would not entirely surprise me. So we will absolutely be talking about that with Sword Art when we get to him. And one change that is definitely worth noting, probably third most important on this, is Halo Blades got nerfed. Tristana and Kai'Sa both run Halo Blades. They received a nerf, or it received a nerf to, let me see, I'll read this to you guys. The rune cooldown was increased to 12 seconds from 8. That may not seem like a big deal, but I can tell you, like, that means that it's pretty much guaranteed in most fights that they will get Halo Blades once, not potentially twice. Like, that's a pretty significant nerf in my opinion. I don't know if it'll be enough to take them out of the meta, but it could. It really could. I think that it could especially affect Kai'Sa. So we'll have to watch that. I think Trist has a lot of other things. Like, I think she could run, like, maybe press the attack or something like that. Like, if people are still, a little worried about damage and attack speed. But, like, yeah, Kai'Sa's definitely not going to be having a good time with that Halo Blades nerf. So that's the patch 11.11 changes. Now let's head into the stuff about TSM. So when looking at the patch notes, the MSI stuff, Rumble has sadly not been played in the top lane, and Rumble got nerfed. Don't think we're going to see it. I think if they maybe revert the Rumble changes. I mean, again, I know it's like completely to jungle. But that's what's been played, and so I was talking with, I think it was Mellory. Rumble could be an interesting pick as a flex option for TSM, because I mean Huni can theoretically play Rumble at any time. We saw once last year, wasn't great, but I do still think Rumble is pretty strong. I just don't think he's OP now, and I don't know that he'll be able to play in the jungle. We will have to see how much those changes affect him. If Rumble is still able to be played in the jungle, though, I do think that TSM could use that as a flex pick. I know that I think it was Mallory again was telling me that Spica was, just spamming games of jungle, Rumble, and I think that could be really interesting for TSM and something very unique to them because not a lot of other top laners play Rumble on a regular basis or have. So could be interesting there. Nar's obviously great for Huni. GP's obviously great. Renekton was better. He hadn't played it much until last year, but obviously can play it and can be very successful on it. Jace with Huni is still solid. The interesting things here for top lane and what we will have to watch for, he's going to have to know Lee Sin, period. Just, he hasn't played it much or at all. He's going to need to know it. Sion, he's got to get better at. We saw his Sion last year, or last split. Not great. Urgot, another champion he hasn't played very much. If Urgot is truly going to be in the meta, and it has been a pretty decent pick at MSI, even in some of the games lost for Urgot, I distinctly remember Urgot playing very well in it. A champion that we should definitely be watching for. Lucian in the top lane as well. I think Huni can bust that out. Not played much, but I don't see that being an issue for somebody like Huni if they wanted to go that route. Looking at Spica, Udyr, obviously. He knows that. He'll be able to play it. I'm going to save Volley for last. I will discuss that here. Nidalee, we know what he can do there. Olaf, we know what we can do. Lilia, we know what he can do. If Lee Sin becomes part of the jungle meta, that'd be huge for Spica. Great champion for him. I kind of hope it happens, just because I want to see Spica absolutely dominate some people on Lee Sin. I could very easily see him also playing Nautilus jungle. I think he'd probably hate it, but I think he'd be really good on it. A lot of engage tools. I can totally see him just really having a big effect on the map and being able to be very confident on that pick with his engages, with his ability to tank up so many things. So should Nautilus jungle become a thing, which I assume that it will, because just between the shield and his AoE E, so his W and his E specifically, which I would assume, like, no joke, if I'm playing Nautilus jungle, I'll probably start W, so that you can get that shield. It does also the damage. And then probably go E, and then maybe even save Q for level 3 or 4. We'll see. But either way, yeah, I could see Spica really winning a lot on that champion. Don't know if he'd enjoy it, but he'd play it. With Rumble probably gone, I think he needs to learn Morg. I would rather him be spamming Morg games right now than Rumble games, but we should see. We'll see. We'll just see. Everybody's like, well, they basically received similar nerfs, sure, but Rumble's 80 damage, I don't know, just it looks like it's going to be a more significant nerf, especially considering Rumble hasn't been as valuable, especially lately in the MSI meta. I also worry that if he plays Morg, I could see him having, like, Spica, I think, could be better on Rumble, just because, again, the play-making ability with the ultimate, I think, could be pretty substantial for somebody like Spica. Whereas the Morgana gives me flashbacks of his Talia, and I know that they're very different champions, but just the squishy AP champion that's not like Lilia, where he can get in and out, where he just has to go in, just worries me. It worries me a lot. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see him just dominate, because I personally really like Morgana. I know a lot of people don't, but I would love to watch him just dominate on that champion. Now here's the champion, the number one champion that I want to see him play. Volibear. If Volibear continues to stay in the meta, he's 3-1 on it. He looked really good on it last season. It reminds me of the set, type of play. Like, when he was able to play Volibear set, I think that was some of the strongest play we saw from Spica. I would absolutely love it. I think Udyr is really strong too. If Spica literally just played Udyr, Volibear, and Morgana and Nautilus, if Nautilus becomes jungle, I could see those 4 picks really shining with him. Clearly he's comfortable on the Udyr. Clearly he's comfortable on the Volibear. If he can play the Nautilus and play the Morgana, it makes him very diverse. There's clearly a lot of engage, and depending on what the team needs, he could just be really strong. Like, I could see that being a really great meta for him. A lot of engage tools. If they want to run I don't see them running Rumble or Morgana very often as well, just because of PoE's capabilities. I don't think they would run double AP, but I could be wrong. We'll have to see. But either way, like, if Spica ran those 4 champions, it would not surprise me in the slightest. I would personally love it. We'll have to see. Power of Evil, obviously Orianna, Azir, and Victor are champions he's very comfortable with. I think he'd probably lean on them pretty heavily right now if the meta stays similar. I think Victor would probably get played a lot with the Azir buff. Maybe just because he's been so good on Azir and his playmaking abilities. Personally, I'd rather him play Orianna than either of those 2 champions. Orianna's clearly meta. She can be played. It's his best champion. Just play Orianna into the ground until people ban it. You get free bans from PoE on the Orianna, and then you can make some changes. That's what I'd like to see. Zoe's obviously in the meta. He's played her. He's not been bad on her. I get flashbacks of Bjergsen missing things on Zoe. He wasn't a bad Zoe, but there were just times I was really worried about the amount of easy things that he missed on her, but hopefully PoE would be better. I don't really remember PoE playing Zoe all that much. Again, only 4 games in his super long career, but if she's going to be in the meta, fine. I would like to see him play it. He is solid on Lucian, so if they do go Morgana jungle, I think Lucian can be picked for Power of Evil. He seems pretty comfortable on it. His biggest problem is that the late game, he struggles. He struggles sometimes with positioning. He struggles sometimes with decision making. If they're going to do that, I would like to see him maybe even play like a split push Lucian. But either way, I imagine we will see at least 1 or 2 Lucian games this season. It would not surprise me. If Assassins come into the meta, which they could, I don't know that they will for sure, but it feels like they're getting pretty close to becoming meta. I think PoE would have to lean really hard on LeBlanc. And if that's the case, then and it starts getting banned, then maybe the Zoe. I don't know. Like, I'd love for him maybe to learn Lissandra if all the assassins come into the meta, so he can still play AP. But we'll have to see. I don't know. I mean, PoE is not known for playing assassins. LeBlanc really is like pretty much his tried and true one champion that he really plays a lot of on assassin metas. Oh, it could be really rough for him if assassins come like into the meta. Like if we see things like, the Talons and the Zeds, like that could be a pretty big issue for TSM and PoE. So we're going to just have to hope and pray that does not happen. We'll quickly go through loss. Kai'Sa's easily one of his best champions. If she stays in the meta, no worries. They'll play him until people start banning her from him. I actually think that everything in this potential meta could work exceptionally well for him, except for Senna. She's a little bit tough to play, especially at this high level. He hasn't played a ton of games on her in terms of professional play, but man, oh man. I mean, he could play any of these. Kai'Sa, Triss, Xayah, Varus getting back in the meta is great for him. Aphelios has been strong for him. Kalista has been really strong for him, actually. Jinx, like, if Ashe comes back in the meta, that could be a bit of a problem, but, like, overall, I think Lost is potentially in the best position of everybody in terms of the potential meta for AD carries. So, really not worried about him at all. Like, not even a little bit. Sword Art, another interesting thing here. So, Nautilus, Alistar, Thresh, and Leona are obviously no issues for him. What I think could be interesting is Morgana. In 50 games played, he has a 72% win percentage, one of his highest win percentage champions of all time. If TSM could find a way to flex Morgana, which I think she can very easily be played in support, I think that's another thing like the Rumble that could be very, very intriguing for this team. I mean, exceptionally intriguing. So I would love to see it. I would love to see a couple games of Sword Art on the Morgana. I think it could be very advantageous for TSM. So we're going to 100% be watching for that. I might even call for it at some point this year. We'll have to see. The Staff of Flowing Waters, changes for, enchanters and ranged supports, I think is going to be pretty nice. Especially for him. Things like the Karma, the Janna. I don't think Bard runs it. But just enchanters in general, like Bard's, or just ranged, I should say. Bard is, again, I don't think he runs Staff of Flowing Water, but either way, I could see Bard coming into the meta. But for sure, for Karma, Janna, and if Nami comes back into the mana, though, that's a really nice buff, and they're all great champions for him. I put Bard in again because, ranged, but I just want you guys to know, like, in 86 games with those 4 champions, he has a combined 73% win percentage. On Nami specifically, he is 11-2. On Karma, 22-9. Janna, 18-4. Bard, 12-8. I mean, that's nutty. That's just so good. I know he's known for things like his Thresh, his Alistar, his Nautilus. But, like, man, if those things come back in and he's able to play Morgana, oh, buddy, that could be interesting. So here are my overall thoughts with this. I worry a little bit about Power of Evil. A lot of his, like, super strong champions are not extremely meta. Again, Victor has struggled a lot. Azir hasn't been played at all at MSI, from what I can remember. I can, actually, here, I'll just check real quick. I don't believe Azir's been played one game and was okay. 5-4-13 with 1 win. That was it. One game of Azir. So, don't really know if that Q change is going to be enough to get Azir back in the meta, but, it does help with mana rates a little bit, so maybe that's been why he's been left out. I don't think so, but we'll see. I think he'll have to lean on Orianna. It's just, it could be bad, especially if Assassins come into the meta. Like, I don't know. Like, you didn't see, outside of the Victor, there was not a lot in terms of, like powerful, control mages in the meta. And I know that he's expanded beyond that. I know that he's not just the control mage guy, but those are what he's most comfortable on, and they're not really in the meta. So I'm a little worried about him, but he's a good enough player to where I think he'll adapt, he'll learn, and by the end of the summer, he'll be good. Normally, summer PoE is pretty strong from what I can remember, so not super worried about him, but especially if Assassins come into the meta, then we're going to have to kind of keep a watchful eye on him, because it could become a point where he just has to survive lane. And that's it. If the bot lane meta shifts, even with the loss of Kai'Sa, I think TSM are going to be in an excellent position. I think Huni and Spica can play like heavy engaged tanky champions like we just talked about, the Volley Bears. If Set comes back into the meta, the Sets, but like, the Nautiluses, the Udyrs in the jungle, and then, in the top lane, Nar is still there, so don't love Nar as like the only tank, but as another beefy boy, in concordance with somebody else, then yeah, that's fine with me. Renekton's obviously still there. Lee Sin isn't beefy necessarily, but he's still engage heavy and can be very useful. Scion, Urgot, those kinds of things. And then you allow Lost to kind of play his thing, and Sword Art can play some of those enchanters like we were talking about, some of those ranged supports, and holy moly. that could be great for TSM. You can play through the bot lane pretty easily at that point. I think Sword Art would do enough to make sure that Lost doesn't get exposed too much if he does struggle at times. And, whew, guys, that'd be really exciting. I mean, really, really fun and exciting. Um, my other big thing here is Lee Sin. Lee Sin is very clearly one of the best champions. Huni should be spamming the crap out of Lee Sin. He should be learning how to do all the war jumps. Spica should be training Huni on how to play Lee Sin in team fights, in skirmishes. I think, I don't know that he'll be able to help necessarily in lane very much. I think Huni can kind of learn that on his own. But like when it comes to the extreme techniques of Lee Sin, that is something that, we'll have to see. Huni has played 3 games of Lee Sin. 1 and 2 with he got 1 kill in those 3 games. So pretty bad. I can't say I know exactly when he played them. Okay, here, no, I can check. All right. So he hasn't played Lee Sin since he was on Fnatic, and it was a spring playoff game. And he went a combined 1, 10, and 14. Was he playing jungle? I guess he was. I don't know. He had smite and TP, unless if it was double smite meta. I don't really remember. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't really remember watching those games back then. But it was pretty bad. Let's just say that. It wasn't great. So we will have to watch, and he's gonna have to learn that champion. So hopefully he can. Hopefully it'll be good. I don't know. I mean, he played into tough matchups to Sign and to Shen. I don't love that for him. So I don't know. It's a rough. It could be a little rough for Huni too. If they're not gonna play it, then I think they just need to ban Lee Sin throughout all of the summer. Because until he gets nerfed, it's going to be played in the top lane. And there are top laners who can 100% take advantage of Lee Sin. Like, if TSM plays Fudge, or when they play C9 and don't give Fudge Lee Sin, I think most teams are going to adapt into that way after the way that he played at MSI with Lee Sin. But, like, yeah, those are things I'm going to watch for. So, again, I think TSM could be in a really nice meta for them. The solo lanes do worry me a little bit, but I think that both of them are pretty willing and able to adapt in a very significant way, in a way that will allow them to, have an impact on the game. And so I want to see TSM pull out some of these new picks. I want to see them potentially pull out some picks that we maybe didn't even see at MSI, test some things out, especially in the beginning of the split. I don't mind, and I'm not going to overreact this time to, speak of playing something like Talia and losing on it. It's just like when you have 27 games, that's one of the great parts about playing that many games, in a split. And they've already got, a nice advantage, from the spring, with their 12 wins. I think that's pretty significant if you ask me. Being 6 games above 500 is kind of a luxury, so you can lose a game or two even to bad teams, and be okay. As long as they're learning the meta and understanding the way that they want to play this summer and into Worlds, they know each other better, they have a better understanding. It's looking very likely that TSM are going to keep the band together like we asked for. So I am very happy about this meta for them, and I'm excited to see the things that they will pull out with it, because I think this could be a really fun team that could surprise a lot of people with how quickly they could adapt and really push for a top spot. So yeah, overall, pretty excited. Let me know your thoughts on this meta. What are you guys thinking? Am I misreading my thoughts on the team and the players? Are you thinking that there are going to be some other picks that I'm maybe not considering? Let me know. I really want to get better at these kinds of things. So yeah, just reach out. Do so kindly if you don't mind. Don't call me an idiot or something. I'm doing my best here, all right? So just let me know. With that, if you like this show, please take a second to like, subscribe, and comment if you're watching on our YouTube channel. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss another episode. I want to continue this being the number one TSM podcast on all podcasting platforms. So please, if you feel inclined, leave a review, especially if you're listening on Apple. I would appreciate that. Share this with your friends. You can tweet me at TGH Robert Haynes. You can tweet the Gamehouse at TGH Esports. I will say I may or may not be doing something a little special for the beginning of the season. So make sure that you're listening to the full episodes. Because I will probably make the announcement at the beginning as to what I'm going to do, and then you'll have to wait till the end to figure out how to do it. So, be ready for that. With that, thanks for tuning in. The show comes out every Thursday and is exclusively for your TSM ear holes. I'm Robert Haynes. This has been Talking TSM. See y'all next week.